welcome to Code with Eddie. So in this episode of the lecture, we are going to be learning how to do collision. So how do we do collision? Let's see what we've done so far. So far, we are able to have enemies falling from different direction, and we are able to have a player move within the game window and dodging these enemies. So we want to be able to keep scores. If the enemy hits the player, we want to be able to count the score. And if a player dodges the enemy, we want to be able to give in a score to the player. So that's what we'll be doing today. So the first thing to do is to be able to add a new entity called health. So we are going to create a new class. We can just double the enemy entity or the player. So we just change it to health status. So health status is an enemy entity, so we extend this and we'll create a new entity of health status. So let's go to the enemy class, to the entity type enum, and add our new enum of health status. So we have health status, we pass X and Y direction, and we don't want to be changing its position in the window, and we want to be able to draw the health status. So we want to be able to draw maybe in blue, and we don't want to be drawing rectangle. So what will we be drawing in? We want to be able to draw a text in our health status. So the first thing to do to draw a text in our health status is to go G dot draw string. So let's check the drawString method. It has some constructor we need to set. So we take this one, the drawString. So it has two input. The first input is the string which we want to be able to draw. So for example, we want to be able to draw a health status of 100%. And the next is the size, the X and the Y. So we can give 32 pixels of the size. This should be good for a health status. This is just all about it. Remember, it's in the game entity type. So let's go to our game and add a new health status. So after adding 3 enemies, we can now add a health status, and we can put it in a position of maybe 5, just somewhere on the top, closer to the top. And let's run and see. Oh, so this is our health status here, 100%. So each time we dodge, we'll be counting down our health status, and when we each time we dodge, we'll count up, and when we lose, we'll count down. So that's what we're doing. So it means in this our health status, we need to create a static variable, public static integer called health, and we'll put it to 0. So we'll be counting the health. Now here, instead of having 100%, we'll have scores. Put something nice, we'll put it, and in between we'll put since it's a static variable, we can call it with the name of the class, and we just put health. So it will show whatever health it is. It will append this percent to beside. That's one answer. This video is getting long. Good. So score 0%. Good. Now we want to be able to put scores for every collision. We change the health status bar. So what do we do that? How do we do that? We need to code collision. The first thing to code collision is we need to pass in the player needs to be aware of every entity in the game window. So this a white player needs to know every entity in the game window. So how do we do that? By passing the handler. So we can pass it handler to our constructor. So handler has a list of every entity. So by passing handler to the constructor, we are giving access to the player on every entity. So it means in our game, before we were calling our game, we need to pass in handler. Now that the player has access to every entity, we can now code collision. So in every update, we want to be able to know if there is collision or not. To do that, we have to create a method called collision private method, and we can implement this collision private method here. Just want to make the code look good. Let's say void. We can as well put the Korea, but I'm just kidding here. Now let me explain how this collision is gonna work. For every entity in our window, like this, is a square, and there is a method in this rectangle class. So a rectangle is any shape with x and y, with the width and the height. So this is a method in the rectangle class that tells you if two rectangles are colliding. So two rectangles will collide if there is something like this. So this space is collision. So if they are collide, you can able to count down the score. You subtract the score. And if there is no collision and the enemy passes by, you were able to add the score. So that's what we want to do using this method called intersect. So intersect method helps to check if two rectangles have collide. So the first thing to know if two rectangles have collide is to be able to have a method to draw the width and the height of every entity. So to do that, we can go to our game entity here and add a new method. So add a method to get the width and the height in our game entity. So it's simple. So write a public. We want the method to return to us a rectangle so that we can able to use the intersect object. So we'll call the method get rectangle. So we're gonna draw a rectangle for this entity. Return. So we'll create a new rectangle. The rectangle takes in x, y, and width and height. So x will be this x dot x. This I always like adding this. It can still work without this. And remember, our entity is 32. The size of our entity is 32. Only the player method will use this rectangle anyway. The player and the other enemy. So we use this rectangle method. The annoying enemy will not use it because annoying enemy is 10. So we're just going to be working with the player. An annoying enemy, if we want to be able to get the rectangle, we can override this method. But for now, we are just working just with the player and the enemy. So now the player, we're able to do collision. So what do we do to make sure that we get collision in the player entity or in the annoying enemy entity? Now, in every entity, we should be able to go through the loop for every entity and check and get the rectangle for each of these entities and check if they intersect. So every entity, we're going through every entity in our handler. So apparently we need to create a handler. I don't like typing. So we can take this one off and add this. So yeah, we can have a private handler. We assign it to it. So now in our collision we can able to get all entities in the handler. Now we check if the entity dot get type is equal to entity type. If this type is an enemy or is an annoying enemy, it's an enemy or the type or this entity get type, the same thing here, we just put it under, it's an annoying enemy, then there should be collision. So we want to be able to check if it's an enemy or an annoying enemy, there should be a collision. So now we check again if we get the rectangle of the player class. So remember we have a get rectangle method we've done. If this rectangle of the player class intersect with this intersect method, remember as I told you about, intersect with the entity rectangle method, then there is a collision. What do? We decrease the health. So health, remember health, we have a static method, we subtract 1 from it, minus equal to 1. So we subtract 1 from our health. So that's how we count the score, subtract 1 from our health. And remember the get rectangle returns 32 by 32 size. For a player and an entity it will work, but for an annoying enemy the size is 10. So we want to be able to override game entity, where is it? Game entity. We want to be able to override this method when it's an annoying enemy. So for an annoying enemy we can override the method here and put 1010. So that when it's an annoying enemy, we will calculate from 10. Good. We are done. So if we run this, we can able to see collision. 1. So our score is 0. Each time it touches, it reduces 1 for my score. So it's changing from 1740. Each time there's collision, it reduces it down. Now we need to make such that each time I dodge any of the entity, the scores go. Let's test the collision with annoying enemy. So you see this is to keep difficult to make it hit you. Anyway, it's gonna work. We don't want to waste time. Good. So we need to reduce, we need to increase each time any of this object passes by. So the same thing we are gonna be doing now is to increase the health each time we dodge an enemy, we increase the health. So this is when the enemy goes to 0. At this point where we're checking in our enemy class, if the enemy is at the bottom of the page, when we are supposed to magically take the enemy back to the top, we need to reduce the scores. It means the enemy has gone through without hitting, and we need to reduce. We need to increase, sorry, the health. So we do health plus equal to 1. We increase it by 1 before generating a new X and Y position and put it at the top. So each time we pass in an enemy, we reduce. For the annoying enemy, it does not count. It does not die, so you always keep running around the window. You just need to dodge it. If it touches you, you lost. If you dodge it, you don't gain any point. But for every other red enemy that you dodge, your point keep increasing. See, it goes from 8. So I dodged 2 now, it's going to 10. I dodged some other couple of them. So it keeps increasing. Now if the enemy touches me, my point go down. So that's it for the game. I hope you enjoyed this part of the lecture, creating collision and also the health status. You can go ahead to make it such that if the score is 100, then you win the game and you can go to the next level, and you can then increase the speed of each of these annoying enemy and the red entity. You can do pretty cool stuff, but we are gonna end this video from here. I'm happy you've gone through this series in creating video with me. It was very good experience to do this game. I'm happy. Please, if you have not yet subscribed and you're enjoying this content, please do subscribe and support this nice cool stuff we're doing here. And I'm out. Bye bye. Love you all.